Imagine standing in the middle of an endless Illinois cornfield at dusk. The wind dies. The rustling hush fades to absolute silence. Then, clear as day, you hear your own name whispered from the rows behind you. Illinois isn't just farmland and old brick cities. It's forgotten asylums, where footsteps echo after midnight, bridges that scream back when you cross them, and cemeteries that refuse to let the dead rest quietly. Tonight, we're taking you to 10 haunted places in Illinois, where the past doesn't just linger. It calls to you, waits for you, and sometimes it answers. Stay with us, if you dare, because these are the places where cornfields whisper your name. 1. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, Midlothian. Bachelor's Grove is quiet in the worst possible way. Tucked among thick woods outside Midlothian, the old 19th century cemetery feels like it was abandoned on purpose, like even the living knew they shouldn't linger. The broken gate creaks in the wind, leading to crooked headstones swallowed by vines. Locals speak in hushed voices about the phantom farmhouse, a 2-story building that appears solid in the trees until you try to approach. Witnesses say the closer you get, the more it fades, until there's nothing but tangled undergrowth and a chill in your bones. Some nights, blue orbs drift between headstones, glowing like candle flames in heavy fog. They float low, slow, and vanish if you move too quickly. One visitor followed an orb deeper into the cemetery, only to hear it pop like breaking glass and leave the air stinking of sulfur. But it's the woman in white who keeps people awake at night. Always the same story. She's seen cradling an infant on a worn headstone, rocking gently, humming under her breath. Her hair covers her face. When people call out or step closer, she freezes, then lifts her head to reveal empty eye sockets before vanishing in a wash of cold air. Near the stagnant pond at the cemetery's edge, the silence is even worse. Visitors report hearing splashing as if someone is thrashing just below the surface, though the water is too shallow to hide anything. The pond is said to conceal unmarked graves, bodies dumped when no one cared enough to dig deeper. Photographers have caught ghostly shapes on film here for decades. Pale faces peering from trees, dark figures standing among toppled stones, the white-clad woman frozen mid-step. When they develop the film, they realize no one saw those people there in person. Bachelor's Grove doesn't shout to get your attention. It waits. And it never forgets who steps through the gate. 2. Alton, the most haunted small town in America. Alton isn't a single haunted house or a crumbling asylum. It's an entire town that feels like it's sitting on the edge of another world, its foundations soaked with the weight of what it can't bury. Built along the Mississippi River, Alton's streets rest on a honeycomb of limestone caves and tunnels, once used for smuggling, the Underground Railroad, and even secret burials. Locals say you can still hear footsteps and muffled voices in the sealed passages, whispers that have nowhere else to go. At the heart of the town, McPike Mansion looms in decaying grandeur. Visitors feel icy gusts in sealed rooms, sudden mists rolling through the parlor with no source. Shadow figures peek from behind doorways. Some guests feel fingers brush their arms, only to find themselves alone. The basement wine cellar is worse. People have run out of gasping for breath, claiming they heard someone breathing with them in the dark. The First Unitarian Church adds its own nightmare to the town's ledger. Its basement holds a sealed crypt, said to weep blood-like stains that return even when scrubbed clean. Candles won't stay lit in that room. A pastor once reported seeing a man in a black suit standing over the crypt, who vanished when approached, leaving the stone slab wet to the touch. Not far away lie the Alton Penitentiary ruins. Even in daylight, the walls seem to shiver with memory. Visitors hear rattling chains and harsh screams cutting the air. One paranormal tour leader heard an inmate's voice growl, "Get out," right in her ear, though she was alone in the ruined cell block. Paranormal tours in Alton rarely leave empty-handed. Disembodied voices answer questions no one asked. Full-body apparitions appear on command, then fade like smoke. And no matter where you stand, the ground itself feels hollow, like the whole town is perched over something vast, ancient, and very much awake. Alton doesn't just have ghosts. It's built for them. 3. Manteno State Hospital. Manteno. There's a hush over Manteno State Hospital, even decades after it closed. It's not the hush of peace, but of secrets that were never meant to be heard again. Built to treat the mentally ill, it quickly became notorious for overcrowding and treatments so harsh they blurred the line between medicine and cruelty. Electroshock, insulin comas, ice baths, anything to make patients compliant. Some simply disappeared. Their files were marked transferred or deceased, with no graves ever found. Now the buildings are husks, their walls caved in, and roofs eaten by the weather. But beneath them, the abandoned tunnels remain. Those narrow corridors were once used to move patients unseen, to transport supplies away from curious eyes. Today, explorers who dare go below say the tunnels channel voices, not echoes, but sobbing that moves with you. One group swears they heard crying stop abruptly, replaced by a whisper behind them. "Don't leave me here." Above ground, even the windows seem to watch. Visitors describe figures in medical gowns standing in shattered frames, motionless, staring. When approached, there's nothing inside but rotting floorboards and old restraints rusted to the walls. Cold spots strike like electric shocks, appearing in the center of rooms with no breeze. More than one person has frozen in place at the sound of gurney wheels rolling over broken tiles, metal clattering softly around corners. No gurneys remain. Locals say the hospital grounds feel wrong, like the land itself resists forgetting. Even in daylight, the paths are lined with weeds that claw at your legs, as if pulling you back. The air smells of mildew and something metallic. Some say the spirits of Manteno aren't angry. They're lost, trapped in the endless loop of their suffering, watching visitors with blank eyes, hoping for the release they never got. Manteno doesn't just tell a ghost story. It reminds you of what happens when no one is listening to the screams. 4. McPike Mansion. Alton. McPike Mansion sits on a quiet hill in Alton, grand and crumbling, its brick facade swallowed by ivy and time. But it's the fog that truly claims it, rolling in thick from the river, hugging the mansion in a damp, cold embrace, making the house seem to breathe. Built in the 19th century, McPike was once the height of luxury. Now it's known for what refuses to leave. The basement wine cellar is infamous. Visitors descend the narrow stairs with flashlights shaking in their hands. Down there, the walls sweat moisture, and shadows press in. Ghost hunters claim to capture apparitions on film, clear as day, figures standing behind them, faces pale and blank. More than one guest has fled mid-tour, claiming cold hands wrapped around their wrists in the dark. A skeptical visitor once scoffed at the stories, only to feel fingers close around his throat, squeezing just enough to make him cough before letting go. The mansion's owner doesn't deny its reputation. She's heard the voices herself, low and close, whispering her name at night, even when she's alone. Sometimes the whispers come from corners of sealed rooms, places no one can hide. Tours have become a ritual of fear and fascination. Guides warn guests about the cold gusts that rush through rooms with boarded windows, about the orbs that appear on command, floating calmly until a question is asked, then darting away like something annoyed. In the upstairs hallway, visitors report seeing a woman in Victorian dress peering from a doorway. She never moves, never blinks. But if you turn your back, you might hear footsteps following softly behind. McPike Mansion isn't abandoned. It's inhabited by memories that won't fade, by voices that refuse silence, and by something that always knows exactly where you are. 5. Peoria State Hospital, Bartonville. Peoria State Hospital was built to help, or so the story goes. But you don't need to be inside its crumbling walls long to know the help never came the way it should have. The campus once held thousands of patients, some sick, some simply unwanted. Their lives blurred into files, numbers, eventually graves. But one man refused to forget them. Old Book, the graveyard watchman, was known for reading the names aloud as patients were buried. Even after he died, people claimed to see his stooped figure at dusk, standing over the graves and weeping, his sobs carrying through the fog. The Bowen building still stands, its windows broken and black. Or not. Some nights, those windows slam shut all at once. No wind, no warning. Investigators inside have felt the air drop 20 degrees in seconds. One team swore they heard someone shuffling behind them, breathing heavily, only to spin around and see nothing but moonlight on cracked tile. Shadow people are common here. Quick movements at the edge of vision. A black shape darted across a doorway. A visitor once followed one down a hall, convinced it was another guest playing a prank, until it melted through the wall, leaving only silence. But it's the underground tunnels that hold the worst of it. Built to connect buildings out of sight, they now lie dark and rank with old earth. People say the tunnels wail, a long, broken sound like someone mourning too long to remember why. Paranormal teams have left recorders down there and returned to hear voices pleading, "Please let me out." Staff who worked there before it closed admit they tried to forget what they heard at night. Doors slamming with no one there. Soft crying from locked, empty rooms. And sometimes laughter. Dry, rasping, echoing off peeling plaster. Peoria State Hospital isn't simply abandoned. It's occupied. By all the sorrow no one wanted to see, and by those who never got to leave. 6. Cahokia Mounds, Collinsville. By day, Cahokia Mounds is a historical site. Grassy terraces rising from Illinois soil. Remnants of an ancient Native American city that once rivaled medieval London in size. But when dusk settles, it becomes something else entirely. Monk's Mound towers above the flatlands, a massive earthwork that seems to hold its breath in the failing light. Visitors standing at its base have reported seeing flickering fires at the top, ghostly flames that burn blue and white, then snuff out the instant you try to climb. Park staff have checked countless times and found nothing but cold grass. After dark, the grounds are supposed to be empty, yet people swear they hear drumming rolling across the fields, steady, rhythmic, rising from the earth itself. Others describe chanting, deep and guttural, in a language they can't place. The sounds fade when approached, but always seem to start again somewhere else. Those who linger too long sometimes glimpse shadowy figures moving among the mounds. They walk with purpose but leave no trace, slipping into the earth as if swallowed. One visitor, a local history teacher, saw a line of these shapes crossing a ridge in a single file. When he called out, they all turned, black voids where faces should be, then dropped into the soil and vanished. Not all encounters are threatening. Some describe a sense of profound sadness, a heavy awareness pressing down on their chest. Like standing in a church after everyone has left, knowing something sacred still listens. But others leave shaken, convinced they weren't wanted there at all. Many believe these spirits aren't ghosts in the traditional sense. They're guardians, keeping watch over a sacred land that suffered too many disruptions, protecting burial grounds that should have stayed untouched. Cahokia Mounds isn't haunted in the way of creaking doors or shrieking specters. It's alive with memory, and it decides who gets to hear its secrets. 7. Greenwood Cemetery, Decatur. Greenwood Cemetery looks like any other resting place in the Midwest. Rolling lawns, towering oaks, mausoleums with flaking stone angels. But come nightfall, something shifts. The shadows grow too deep, the wind stops moving, and the lights appear. Locals have whispered about them for generations. Ghost lights that hover over headstones, bobbing like lanterns with no flame. They move slowly, deliberately, weaving between graves. Many claim the lights seem to follow them, never too close, but close enough to remind them they're not walking alone. Apparitions are seen more often than anyone likes to admit. Figures in outdated clothing wander among the mausoleums, vanishing around corners, only to reappear behind you. One groundskeeper told of a man in a bowler hat who simply stared from behind a crypt wall, eyes glinting in the moonlight before fading into the stone itself. More unsettling are the voices. Visitors have reported being called by name, clear as day, from empty paths. A Decatur college student recounted walking with friends when he heard his full name whispered in a woman's voice, just behind his ear. When he turned, no one was there. The group left immediately, hearing giggling that trailed them all the way to the gates. And then there's the devil's chair. An old stone seat was tucked near a cluster of family plots. Legend says, if you sit in it at midnight, you'll see the devil himself. Or worse, you'll carry his curse home with you. Some call it nonsense, but locals swear they've seen people brave enough to try, only to bolt minutes later, pale and shaking, insisting they heard something breathing under the stone. The cemetery's history only deepens the unease. During Prohibition, gangsters reportedly desecrated graves, using crypts to store booze, leaving coffins broken and scattered. Some say that disrespect invited everything that came after. Greenwood Cemetery isn't just haunted, it's watchful. And if you hear your name whispered there, don't answer. 8. Airtight Bridge, Coles County. Airtight Bridge is the kind of place you don't find by accident. Narrow, rusted iron spanning dark, slow water, hidden deep in Coles County farmland. Locals know it well, but most won't cross it after dusk. They say it's cursed, and the rumors aren't just old ghost stories. In the 1980s, a woman's dismembered body was found nearby, her parts dumped like refuse under the bridge. Her murder was never solved. Over the years, people began to say the place hadn't just seen violence, it kept it. Those who dare visit at night often report screams rising from the black water below. Not echoes or animal cries, but raw, human wails that freeze you in place. Others have heard the unmistakable sound of splashing, like something heavy thrashing just out of sight. When flashlights swing over the river, they reveal nothing but slow, rippling current. Drivers crossing late have watched their headlights die for no reason, engines sputtering to silence in the center of the span. One man said he sat in the dark listening to the water slap metal and felt something thump the floorboards under his car. 3 times, like a warning. Even more chilling are the reports of a woman's figure standing mid-bridge. Always the same description: long hair matted to her face, white dress torn and dripping. She doesn't move. She doesn't speak. And when you blink or turn on your brights, she's simply gone. But some say they feel wet fingerprints on their arms or neck after. Those brave enough to record at Airtight Bridge often capture whispers, not sentences, just one word over and over: go. Locals don't tell these stories to scare kids. They tell them because they've heard the screams themselves, because they've seen the lights die, because the bridge doesn't want you there, and because whatever waits at Airtight Bridge isn't trying to haunt you, it's trying to warn you. 9. Resurrection Cemetery, Justice. Resurrection Cemetery in Justice, Illinois, isn't just another graveyard. It's the birthplace of one of the Midwest's most enduring ghost stories, the tale of Resurrection Mary. They say she's a young woman forever trying to get home. Sightings date back to the 1930s, and they haven't stopped since. Drivers on Archer Avenue, a lonely, winding road skirting the cemetery, tell nearly identical stories. They see a girl in a white dress standing at the roadside, hand lifted as if to hitch a ride. Her hair is pale, her face obscured by shadows. Those who stop say she climbs in silently, her gaze fixed forward. She never speaks. The car's interior grows inexplicably cold, and just when they pass the cemetery gates, she's gone. No door opening, no sound. Just empty air where she sat moments before. Some drivers have felt her hand on theirs as they shift gears. One man swore she turned her head toward him slowly, her mouth moving without sound before she vanished. He wouldn't drive Archer Avenue after dark again. But Mary doesn't only appear in passing cars. Witnesses have seen her gliding along the cemetery fence, her gown luminous in the dark, feet never touching the ground. She stops only to face the gates, pressing slender hands against them. That's where the legend gets its most chilling proof: burned handprints embedded in the cemetery's iron gates. Maintained for years, the marks refused to buff away, like the metal itself remembered her touch. Locals will tell you Mary was a real girl, a young woman killed in a car accident leaving a dance in the 1930s. But no one agrees on the exact date or her full name. It doesn't matter. Everyone in Justice knows you don't tempt fate by driving Archer Avenue alone at night. Because Resurrection Mary isn't just a story. She's waiting, and she always needs a ride home. 10. Cairo, Ghost Town, at the Confluence. Cairo sits at the southern tip of Illinois, where the Mississippi and Ohio rivers collide in a restless, muddy embrace. Once, this town boomed with river trade, mansions, bustling docks, and the promise of wealth. Now it's a hollow shell, a city-shaped grave no one has buried. The streets are cracked and overgrown, lined with buildings whose windows gape like broken teeth. Boarded-up storefronts creak in the wind. But the wind isn't the only thing moving here. Walk these streets after dark, and you might hear footsteps on warped floorboards behind sealed doors. Slow, patient steps, as if someone is wandering the rooms of a house that no longer belongs to them. Locals warn against pausing too long near the old hotel or the grand abandoned courthouse. They say if you look up, you'll see figures in the windows. Not reflections, not tricks of light, but people, dark, motionless, watching. Those who've tried to record the silence often capture whispers, whole phrases sometimes. Get out, stay, help me, and sometimes just breathing, deep and rattling, as if the town itself is trying to speak through its rot. A local man who grew up there says he won't walk Cairo's main drag after sundown. Not because of crime, there's no one left to commit it, but because he heard his own name called from an alley one night. When he turned, he saw a shadow step into the brick and vanish. But the worst feeling isn't fear, it's sorrow, like the whole town is mourning itself. The river mists that roll in at night swallow everything. Houses, street lamps, you. Stand still long enough, and you'll feel it. The weight of every promise Cairo made and broke. The memory of everyone who left and everyone who never could. Cairo isn't just abandoned. It's waiting, listening. And in the hush between river currents, it remembers everything you'd rather forget. Illinois's haunted places are more than local legends. They're wounds that never closed, relics of the past that refuse to stay quiet. From decaying hospitals where footsteps echo in empty halls, to cornfields that whisper your name when no one's there. Every shadow holds a story waiting to be told. Next time you find yourself driving through miles of empty farmland at dusk, ask yourself, did the wind really call your name? Or was it something else? If these tales sent a chill down your spine, subscribe for more haunted history and the places you were never meant to visit after dark. Which one would you dare to explore first? Tell us in the comments below.